Hi, welcome back to Burning River Bushcraft. Today we're going to be putting leather finger loops on our Classic Hunting Atlatl. So a couple weeks ago I made a video on the Classic Hunting Atlatl. So this is a design in Wyatt Knapp's new Atlatl workbook. It's a pretty standard hammer style Atlatl. On this one I did a jute handle wrap as well as my micarta spur. But other than that, it's basically right off his dimensions. And I liked it a lot, but I noticed when I was throwing this that sometimes instead of coming directly over the top, I would cant the Atlatl a little bit. And some of those throws would end up kind of wild. So there are several different styles of Atlatls, but any type that's got a loop or finger grooves or notches is going to give you a little better index point. So I can keep the spur more in a 12 o'clock position during the throw. But I like this simple style, so in Wyatt Knapp's book, he mentioned in the appendix about adding finger loops, and he actually included how to do that. So I made a second Atlatl. So this is a twin of the first. The only difference is, since I'm going with leather loops, I decided to go with a leather handle wrap as well. So I'm not going to go over building the Atlatl itself. If you want to see that, I'll put a link in the description for the first video. I go over everything but the dimensions. If you really want to truly make Wyatt's Atlatl, you should probably get his workbook. It's a very, very good book. But today we're going to take this leather wrapped handled Classic Hunting Atlatl and we're going to be adding leather finger loops. So in the book he gives you a basic pattern, and I kind of looked at it and just kind of eyeballed it and made it look about like I wanted it to. These leather tab lengths are going to be a little bit different depending on your hand size and the Atlatl dimensions and everything. So a lot of this is going to be just playing it by ear, but basically I'm just going to slip this right over the edge and work this down to the top of the leather wrap. So you don't need a vise, but so I don't have to hold it up in the air in front of the camera while I'm folding these and tying the loops in place. My vise is right here. So I'm just going to walk over to the workbench, clamp it in. If you don't have a vise, you can finish this project just fine without it. So now with the leather in place, I'm just going to use some artificial sinew for a wrap. You could use whatever type of cord you have available. So the leather finger loops are approximately at the height of the top of my handle wrap. So I'm just going to use my thumb as a guide. I'm going to take this leather and just see what I need for length. So once you've got this folded over, and then I would make it thumb size. That way your finger or thumb will be able to fit in it. I'm going to fold this down out of the way. And right at this base, right where the top of the leather handle wrap meets the base of your finger loop, we're just going to temporarily lash that into place. I'm going to keep this straight. I'm going to throw just a hitch in it to hold it temporarily. And before we get too far into this, I'll check it, and I've still got the size I want. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So once my other loop is set, I'm going to hold this into place and then just continue my wrap. So I've actually got about 12 feet of sinew total for this, and that's going to be more than I need. And a lot of it's just going to be cosmetic, to be honest. I want it to go up, oh, maybe a ½ inch or so, whatever looks right to me. So I'm just stacking them in here nice and tight. So you could finish this off any way you want to. You could use glue for that matter. Like I mentioned, I am just going to whip it because I've got an extra piece of cordage here to help me pull it through. And I know it's going to look nice and finished when I'm done. So we're not quite done yet, but before we go any further, we're just going to try this out. And there's a couple different ways to use finger loops. You can use it with your thumb and forefinger. You can also use more of a basket maker style and throw it overhand. With this hammer grip style, I'm going to be using it this way exclusively, basically. But this is going to keep the spur at a 12 o'clock position. It helps me know where the top of the Atlatl is, and then I can actually relax my hand more, and I don't have to hold it in such a tight hammer grip. The loops are going to be holding most of the weight as I swing through and throw the Atlatl. So I'm good on loop size. So you can leave this decorative, I suppose. So whatever length looks good to you. I'm going to trim this about 1 inch. So I'll trim it down, and then we'll take some throws with it. So this is the finished product. This is what I ended up with. I just trimmed this down maybe 3/4 of an inch or so, and the loops fit just fine. When I was throwing this at some of my foam targets, this point was just eating them up. This is a pretty good sized point. So I'm going to work on making another set of darts that's going to have smaller tips, something I can use on my foam targets. So I will take a couple throws at a deer down here just to get a feel of how these finger loops work and to show you how well they work. But this foreshaft is not really conducive to these foam targets. I've got cane drying right now. I'm going to show you how I make these rubber cane darts. I'm probably going to go with a couple other dart options in case you don't have access to rubber cane like this. But the foreshaft that's going to be a little more foam target friendly is high on my list to do right now. So to use this Atlatl, it's going to be no different than the Classic Hunting Atlatl that I just made in a previous video. The finger loops are only going to be an improvement. And there's a socket in the dart. The spur goes in, and then my thumb and finger are going to support the dart itself. So it took a couple throws to get this figured out. It's different being attached to the Atlatl. It feels different to me. I get different feedback instantly. It almost, I can feel it in my arm more. So I'm not throwing as hard. I feel like with this traditional Classic Hunting Atlatl without loops, I'm holding on to it a little harder and I'm throwing a little bit harder. With this, it's more of a relaxed throw for me. And as I mentioned, this is just killing this target. This is punching like, 3/8, half-inch holes in this target every single time I punch it. So I want to limit my throws on this target. But I definitely like the improvement of the finger loops. It's different. It feels different to me, but it feels different in a good way. Definitely something I'm going to get into. I think the rest of the Atlatls I'm going to look into building are going to have some way to attach to your hand. I definitely like the feedback I'm getting from this. Just more practice. And this is something I don't take real seriously, so I don't claim to be an expert at it. But it is a handy, primitive tool. Till next time, this has been Jamie Boggs with Burning River Bushcraft. See you soon.